Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bhedu Vibhagine Vyomavat Pyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Gukarastvandakaro Vai Rukarastvanivartakaha Andhakara Nirodhitvat Gururitya Vidhiyate Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So as you know, the very first part of our class, we are reviewing these stages of what we call the Vedantic meditation. So meditations, of course, meditation has become a very, very popular topic. Everybody you're going, people talk about, I'm doing meditation, which is good. But from the standpoint of the Vedas, the very original Jnanam, what is meditation? What is Nididhyasanam? So here we were very fortunate that Adi Shankara's Aparoksha Anubhuti, which by the way I just wanted to just briefly mention because of the word Aparoksha Anubhuti. I think I've already talked about this. We are planning to have a 1-week retreat at the ashram next year from May 13th Saturday to May 20th Saturday, 1 week. And the topic of that will be Aparoksha Anubhuti, this very book that we are studying. I'm not quite sure what we are going to cover because it's a very long book. In the discussions with Swami Viditatmananda, he also pointed out that he is actually finishing up the publishing of his commentary on Aparoksha Anubhuti, and so we will probably also use his text as part of our class. But Swamiji and I have talked about this. We have to do some selective verses, and we will use that as part of the course. So please, I hope that you can all come. I'm going to bug you about it. I know only one person cannot come, a holodeck, that is Poonam Yadav. She's taking her daughter to college. But other than that, I hope all of you can make it. Anyway, so that was just the Aparoksha Anubhuti. So we're very fortunate that Adi Shankara in this text called Anubhuti, Aparoksha Anubhuti, has created a very good explanation of the Vedantic meditation. This was the topic I was talking about. And I've not seen this before in any of the other texts. So this is just a marvelous review of the 15 steps necessary for what is called Vedantic meditation, or also called Nididhyasanam. So just to remind you, we went over the 15 steps, which some of them are included in the Patanjali Yoga's Ashtanga, the 8 stages of Patanjali Yoga. But this goes beyond that, and not only beyond that, slightly different, as we have been doing this contrast as we go along. Anyway, the 15 steps are Yama, Niyama, Tyaga, This we have done. So 3 of them we have completed. Today we'll do the 4th one, Mauna, silence. We'll do that. Then the rest of them, all 15 of them are Desha, Kala, Asana, Moolabandha, Deha Samya, Drishti, Sthitihi, Prana Samyamaha, Pratyahara, Dharana, Atma Dhyanam and Samadhi. So this is a long list. It will take us quite a while to go through that, but we are dedicated to doing so. So anyway, those are the 15 steps, and today we will take up the topic of Mauna. And so here, just to give you the reference, there are several of the Aparoksha Anubhuti passages, verses that are taken up for Maunam, 107, 108, 109, 3, three only in Maunam. So hopefully we will summarize this is a very long section that has been commented by Swami Akhandananda ji, but I will try to summarize it hopefully in this class itself. If not, then we'll take some more time. So Maunam means silence. So as part of the meditation, we all pretty much have an idea that you cannot be in meditation while you are talking or so on. You're working, talking, that's not meditation. Actually speaking, this is interesting, this is not true what I just said. In the ultimate Vedantic meditation, once you understand the very fundamentals of Vedanta, then it doesn't matter whether you're silent or not, your mind is always silent. So the very famous, I think it's in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and we also saw that in the Drikdrishya Upanishad, Drikdrishya Viveka. So it says, Yatra yatra manoyati jati, tatra tatra samadhaya. Excuse me a second. So yatra yatra manojati, yati, I think yati. Ya and ja in Sanskritam are interchangeable. Jati, yati. So wherever the mind goes, so mind goes means when you are eating, you are talking and so on. If you know the Vedantic truth, your mind is still inwardly silent. So anyway, so that is the last stage, but until then, let me just a second, hold on. Anyway, sorry about that, I should have silenced it. Anyway, but until you get to that point, then the vak tapas, the silence of talking is important. Later on, it doesn't matter because you have already established yourself. But in the beginning, as you're going through the stages, then having a silence of the Vani, this is called Vani Tapas, Vani Maunam, is an important one. It's even though it is rudimentary. So now, so there what we saw is that Ishvara, our Creator, has provided us with the various sense organs with a lot of thought. This is Ishvara's Srishti is not to be questioned in the sense there's no problems in it. There's no mistakes in it. It's a perfect creation. And part of that creation is that even all beings for that matter, not just human beings, are given some sense organs for a purpose. Okay? So, Vani, the power to talk, is also one of the organs. So therefore, it is meant for talking. When you have a small child, I can see our 18-month-old baby, how she is putting together sounds into words and words into sentences. This is very natural. It is required in order to function. So the Vani is supposed to be used. So it seems like Maunam is against it, as though you are rejecting the design of Ishvara. So that's not what it is meant for, and we will clarify it, but just to set the stage for it. I remember one thing that was in Swami Akhandanandaji's books, he also mentions various examples of the misuse of Maunam. Okay, but I remember there was a what is it called? It's called Hanuman. There is a place that we actually used to have our Swamiji's talks in South Bay near Watsonville, and so there is a ashram, kind of like an ashram, and there used to be a Swami who was the architect of that whole ashram. He has passed away, I think, since then. But when we actually met him, he was there, he was alive, and when Swami Viditatmananda used to have talks, then we would go and do namaste to, I forget his name, to the Swami who created the whole thing and so on. He was a Mauni. This is what I was saying. Mauni means he has taken a vow of not talking. And we had heard about it, but not until we met him did we realize that this person does not talk a single word. He's fully grown. He must have been like 60, 70 years old. And so we met him and we talked to him. So you know what he did? So he would have a slate, kind of like a size of this paper, 8.5 by 11 paper. He would have a slate that he would carry with him. And there was a kind of like a fine chalk that he would write on. I don't know, if it's some pen or something like that. I forget what it is. You remember the children have it, what is it called? The one where you can erase everything and then you write again. Erase everything, write again. So he had one of those kinds of things. And so when he had an occasion to express himself, he would write it. He would write it on it. So when Swami Viditatmananda ji came and we did our namaskara, we also had students there. So he wanted to ask, where are you from? So he actually, I remember this so well. I was standing right next to Swamiji, Swami Viditatmananda. He said, W-H-E-R-E, I think it was in English, I'm not sure. I don't remember that. Where are you from? Question mark. And he gave it to them. And Swamiji said, I am from Ahmedabad, I am a Gujarati person. Oh, when did you come here? So this dialogue went on. This was the strangest Mauni that we can imagine. And not only that, then he took us a tour of all the buildings that were constructed. And as he was going, he was scribbling notes. Scribbling notes, showing it to us. And we said, okay, we understand. Then he erases it and he starts another one. This is not maunam. You know what it is? It's an insult to our Creator who has given us the power to talk. So this is not meant by mauni. This is a misuse. Excuse me, I have to take a Ricola if you don't mind. Some irritation in my... Excuse me for a second. So this is not mauni. This is not the maunam it is. So, if this is not maunam, then what is? That's the next question. Okay, let's table it for a minute and then go back to another way of looking at this whole thing. Okay, so let's just take and this is all from this is not me talking, I'm just following the script of the Aparoksha Anubhuti. So here, Adi Shankara says, you look at Paramatma. Look at means examine Paramatma. This is what we are all seeking. We are all seeking a darshana, a experience, you may want to say, of Ishvara. And until we have the darshan of Ishvara, darshan of Paramatma, Paramatma and Ishvara, Parameshwara and Paramatma are the one and the same. So until we have that vision, we are not happy. The worldly life gives you certain happiness. You have get-togethers and food and this, that, or the other. But until we have an idea of who I am, what is Parameshwara, what is Jagat, very clearly, I continue to go on. This is our situation. So now the question is, how do I experience Paramatma? So our Vedas all say that Paramatma is not any other object like we see. It's not like it is, you'll never find it. You can spend many, many lives looking for Paramatma. As we do, we do not see, even science, for example, says, where is God? And in terms of its methodology of understanding what is what, it's never there. Because I must be able to see something that I'll be able to see is there. If I don't see it, then it is not there. So there is no God. But this is our view. And the Vedas also say you're never going to find it because it is not something which is what is called drishya. So drishya means drik swarup, one which is capable of being seen by a drik. So the Paramatma is not an object that I can visualize. Okay, if that's the case, then what is the other thing that one can do? I'm going to take this out. I have difficulty in talking. So what's the other thing that we can do? If we cannot see Paramatma, and I want to see Paramatma, I want to experience Paramatma, then what do I do? The next thing is that you examine all your experiences, what is called anatma, all the jagat. So this is very interesting. There's this needs to be totally understood, that there are two words used for all the things that you see in your life, all the experiences that you have. Two words used. One is called Jagat. So Jagat is a very interesting word because it has the continuity of change right in front of you, in the word itself. So Jagat. So Ja means Jayate. Jayate means it is born. And as it is born, it goes away. This is the nature of our experiences. Things are continuously changing. Jayate gacchati iti jagat. So this is the nature of jagat. Now, the jagat is Ishvara Srishti. It is the creation of the Almighty. Because it is not created by any one person. The sun and the moon and so on is not created by anybody. In fact, it was interesting. Swami Dayananda used to say that. He says, I admire something about America, United States. They even want to change nature. As though we are the creators, we know exactly what should be done. How? He used to say, I am really amazed about the daylight saving time. I'm going to turn that off. Hold on just a second, because I'll be right back.
Call from 1-650-260-6077.
Sorry, I forgot to silence the landline. I think I'll take the phone out from this room. So Swami used to say that really Americans are really very interesting people, because he says nowhere else, maybe some other places also, do they change the fundamental time. There is a certain natural flow of the sunrise and sunset, so you get adjusted to it. Seasons are meant for a purpose. But no, I think the Americans feel we can change nature itself. Instead of getting up at 8 o'clock, we want to get up at whatever, 7 or 9. By the way, thanks for the change of the class to agree to it. As a result of it, I really had my usual meditation and study, and so that was, I think I like this. This is better to start at 9 o'clock. So the Jagat is the creation of Ishvara. It is not a human creation. But there is another word used for our experiences called samsara. And many times the Jagat and samsara are used as synonyms. But in the view of the Vedantic masters, they are not synonyms. They look like synonyms, but they are not. So if they are not synonyms, then what? So what is said is, this is interesting to see, very important to understand this. The Jagat is Ishvara Srishti. Ishvara Srishti. Samsara is Jiva Srishti, not Ishvara Srishti. How? The Jagat, which is Ishvara Srishti has no gunas in it. And if it has guna, it is meant for the enjoyment of the world. Like, for example, winter, summer, spring, autumn, all these changes in the weather and so on. It is really to see the variety of the creation, of experiences and so on. But what human beings do is to superimpose their own ideas on top of that. I don't like this. This is what very, very common. I don't like cold weather. I want to settle in Arizona where it is warm. So this kind of a superimposition on top of Jagat is what is called samsara. Very simple case is that, let's say a woman, 40-year-old woman is Ishvara Shrishti. Because she was born as a young girl and then she became a woman. And she has some size and age and looks and so on. This is all Ishvara Srishti. But then if a person looks at her and concludes, I don't like her, she talks too much, or whatever. I'm just giving one example. I don't know why I'm taking a woman. It should be done for a man. Then that is Jiva Srishti. That is called samsara. Anyway, that is just on the side. That is not the main topic that we are discussing regarding Maunam. And I think we are rapidly approaching a time when the half hour is over. So it's very clear that I'm not going to be able to finish Maunam. We'll do that next time. But let me finish the topic subtopic that I had started. So the topic was that you cannot see Paramatma. You can only see the Srishti of the Paramatma. And also, the Srishti of Paramatma, I do not quite understand what is going on, because it really does look like samsara to me. It does have problems that I see, and it's unsolvable problems. You have all these terrorist attacks and so on, and you have Putin taking over a country, and these are kind of like unsolvable issues. Why? What's going on? Not sure about it. So so here's in summary, Paramatma is not known, and the understanding of Paramatma's Srishti is also not known. Nirvachanam. Okay, so what is the solution to this? What are the topic? What are you talking about? What is the purpose of this thing? So this one, I will briefly mention it. It's already 9:27. I want to go on to the Gita section. But I'll briefly mention it, and then from next class on, we will explain it. So the way to understand Paramatma is not the direct perception, but an intelligent indication called lakshana. So this is what is called lakshana vritti. Through lakshana, I can understand Paramatma. And if I understand Paramatma, I understand myself. And if I understand myself, I have no problems. This is the pragati. This is the stages that we have to go through. And Maunam becomes an important way to achieve this understanding of lakshana vritti. So that is the Vedantic meaning of Maunam. Not just ceasing to talk, This is that just, what it really speaks of is some kind of a abhimana, some kind of a self-glorification. I am a Mauni. Swami Makhandananda says, when he was in Vrindavan, there were people who had not spoken for years. And when they came out of the Maunam, they were impossible to deal with. They didn't have any love and so on and so forth, but they had some abhimana that I was silent for 15 years, as though I am the greatest person that you have seen. Nobody else can be silent for 15 years. I was able to do it. This is not Maunam. Anyway, so this is not Maunam. Then what is Maunam is the main topic, and we will continue to examine it, and hopefully I think we should be able to cover it in next week. So with that, I close that topic and go back to our study of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So let's do the Gita Dhyanam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvamanusandathami Bhagavad Gita Bhavat Dveshini Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapadakramo Panishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samaga Dhyanavastita Tatkatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na Vidusura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. So, we are going to take up the second chapter, verse number 16. And I thought what might be good is to chant all the 6 verses, starting with verse number 11 of the second chapter, just to see the continuity of it. So, verse number 11, as you know, we've already done this, 11 to 15. Today we'll do the verse number 16. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashocyan Anvashocastvam Pragyavadam Chubhashase Gatasunscha Nanusochanti Panditaha Natvevaham Jatunasam Natvam Neme Janadhipaha Nachaiva Nabhavishyamaha Sarve Vayamataf Param Dehinosmin Yatha Dehe Kaumaram Yauvanam Jara Tatha Dehantara Praptihi Tat Dhiras Tatra Namuhyati Matras Parshastu Kaunteya Shitoshna Sukha Dukkhadaha Agama Paino Nityaha Stam Stitikshasva Bharata Yam Hina Vyathayantyete Purusham Purusharshabha Samadukha Sukham Dhiram Somritatvaya Kalpate Nasato Vidyate Bhavaha Na Bhavo Vidyate Sataha Ubhayorapi Drishtantaha Tvanayos Tattvadarshibhihi. So this is the 16th verse that we're going to do today. So in the last topic, which ended up in verse number 15 was, so there he says, Titiksha. The main topic was Titiksha. Titiksha means sahanam, the ability to tolerate. The importance of the ability to tolerate problems is an important step towards understanding my own self. This was the main topic. And you know, it's very interesting. One of the methods of people generally ask, you know, can Vedanta be, do you need to have a live guru? A guru actually, live or not, but do you need to have a guru to understand Vedanta? And part of the question is, why can't I just read the books? Because it all says the same thing that the guru says. I can see it right here. And so if I can just read the book, then I'll be okay. I don't need a guru. This is the prevailing view. It is not an outside view. This is the main view. I don't need a guru. I don't have anybody that I know that anyway. So it's interesting, as you really go through life, you realize how important a guru is, which cannot be supplied by reading books. So the reason I'm mentioning this is this topic about titiksha, toleration. So here's what happens. When you're reading the Bhagavad Gita, let's say, supposing you are saying, you know what, I really want to understand Gita. Okay, that's good. Okay. So you start reading some, you know what, there's so many translations, Radha Krishna's translation, all kinds of Gita translation that has been one of the most commented upon book in the whole world. So you can take any one of the books and you start reading. And then you say, Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya. So, hey Kunti Putra, you have to tolerate. Otherwise, because so amritatvaya kalpate, yam hina vyatayante purusham purusharshabha, and so on. So you say, okay, now I understand the meaning of it. It's good, I understand it. Okay, what's next? Nasato vidyate bhavaha. Okay, that I understand. Okay, what's next? Avinashitu tadvidhi. This is how our mind works. So take a look at the importance of toleration in this whole thing. It is one of hundreds of things talked about in the Gita. And so you don't give it any special mention per se. And yet, I was reading during my COVID days one of the several texts that I have been studying, really deeply studying. This morning also when I got up, I always do a few chapters as much as I can, a few pages of some new book. In one of those books, Swami Akhandananda pointed out that his teacher, whose name was Uriya Baba, to some Mahatma in near Varanasi that he happened to, and he really adopted him as his main teacher, Uriya Baba. He says that Uriya Baba used to say over and over again, if you want to have siddhi in your life, you want to accomplish the ultimate, in fact, you want to accomplish anything, even lesser than the ultimate, you need toleration. So in Hindi, he was a Hindi speaking person, probably Odisha. Sahan karo, sahan karo, sahan karo. Sahan ke bina siddhi nahi ho sakti. He starts a whole chapter, Swami Akhandananda ji. When you read that, and so when I'm reading the text, it is no longer reading the text, it is Swami Akhandanandaji talking to me. And the importance that he gives of saying that my guru used to say the most important thing in the world is toleration. That does something extra, but you cannot simply read by saying matra sparshas tu kaunteya. This is the truth, but the kind of emphasis, the kind of driving home the point can only be done by a guru. And I must say, once I read this must have been like 3-4 weeks ago, those things have not left me, honestly. I mean, I've also read the Gita several times and so on, but the impression on that was not nearly as potent as the one with when he says, Swami Udiya Babaji said, one of the life's most important thing is toleration. And by that means that you have to really look at it. You examine, am I able to tolerate? And because the toleration is just for the temporary. If you can't even tolerate the temporary, how are you going to get to the permanent? This has really given a new impetus to toleration. And so, anyway, I just wanted to mention that to you, that the importance of a guru. Okay, so that topic is now over. So we did that with number 15. Yam hina vyatha yantete. So as you know, the number 15 provides the logic for toleration. He says, Yam hina vyatha yanti ete purusham purusharshabha samadukha sukham dhiram saha eva amritatvaya kalpate. Only that person is capable of understanding the truth about life, about moksha. The one who is not bothered by small things. This is the logic that was given. Okay, anyway, that's number 15. Now we start a new topic. 16. Na sato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate sataha, ubhayorapi drishtantaha, anayos tattva darshibhihi. So here, let us at least understand the word meaning, right? The word meaning before we go into the detailed commentary. So this verse is a very important verse in the Bhagavad Gita. There are lots of very important verses. All the verses are important, but there are some that are extraordinarily important. This is one of those. And it forms the very basis of the vision of Vedanta. Bhagavad Gita is Vedanta. There's no difference. So this is the foundational verse on which the whole house of Vedanta is built. This verse. So what it says is, first line is, na asataha vidyate bhavaha. Okay. You see Swami Shankarananda ji's commentary in Hindi on this. सत वस्तु से विलक्षण असत रूप इस जगत की सत्ता नहीं हो सकती. So here's what it means. So I'll just, because there are different ways of really explaining the words. It's not as though different meanings, same meaning, but different ways of explaining. So he says, na asataha vidyate bhavaha means that you cannot see the presence of something unless it is the truth, connected to the truth. It must be somehow connected to the truth. So, bhavaha means you can even say this, the sense of experience, the sense of understanding, of saying, yes, it is there. Yes. So that kind of a mental agreement, experience, is not possible unless there is some connection to the Sat. Sat means the very truth. And so the definition of Sat is very pure. The definition of, so as you know, there are three things. If we can just go back to the very definition of Sat, Asat, and something in between. So let's review that. This is very common knowledge and you already know this. So it's not as though I'm teaching this for the first time, but I'm just bringing it up in front of you for review. So what is the definition of Sat, Asat, and in between, which is called Mithya? This is the basic of Vedanta. Sat is defined as something which is never untrue. Never. Why? Because it is the Swarupa of truth. It is not borrowed truth. So in that sense, for example, the light of the lamp is borrowing the electricity from electricity. And if it is disconnected from electricity, then it cannot light the lamp. But the electricity, in that example, the electricity is always electricity alone. Of course, the example there is that even electricity also can be turned off. That's a separate matter. But if you look at the expression of electricity through some kind of an instrument, like a light, then the light, the light reflection based on its borrowing the electricity is different from the electricity itself. So what it means, na asataha vidyate bhavaha, means you cannot have the experience of anything without it being connected to the Sat. So going back to the topic of the Sat, Asat and Mithya, the Sat is something which is never untrue at all times. All times mean what? There are really three things. You can make it infinite if you want to, but you can crystallize it to three things: Desha, Kala, and Vastu. Right? Desha means a place, Kala means time, and Vastu means in some specific form. So Sat definition is one which is present at all places, at all times, and in all forms. That is what is called Sat. That's the definition of Sat. So that means anything we examine in terms of a bhava, we need to see whether Sat is present or not. So for example, take a look at a person. A person is there in a specific place at a specific time. So a person, does it pass the definition of Sat? No. Why? Because if I am here, I am not there. So that means that I am a function of desha. I am dependent on, I'm conditioned by a place. I'm also conditioned by time. And I'm also conditioned by the fact that I am only this much, I am not everybody else. Very clearly, a person is not Sat. But the bhava of a person is there. I am talking to you, you're listening to me, you're seeing my image in the YouTube, so I must be there, otherwise how can I be talking? So that means the bhava is there, but the bhava itself is not the Sat. That means that my Sat must be connected to the real Sat, which is Deshataha, Kalataha, Vastutaha independent, always there. How it is there, this we will see later, but at least you should see this. So going back to the definition of the three basic objects, so you have Sat, which is never not there, and then you have Asat, which is never there, never, not possible. These are the two extremes. And so that one is, you can picture and you can conjure up things. So it's not easy for us to see. See, traditional definition of Asat in the Vedanta is the horns of a human being, like the horns of a cow, or the horns in a furry animal like a cat. It's never a horn, never. Ishvara has made some very interesting creations. Some of the animals have horns. Human beings and other animals, many of the other animals do not have horns. So therefore, the horn of a human being is an Asat. Never there. So that's the Asat. Then comes the funny part. There is something in between which is neither Sat nor Asat. It is hard to define. Hard to define means you cannot see it all the time. Now it is here, now it is not there. This is what is called Nirvachanam. Nirvachanam means one which is very specific. So the definition of Sat is very specific. Independent of Desha, Kala, Vastu is Sat. And absence of Desha, Kala, Vastu independence is Asat. Very, very definite. It's called Nirvachanam. So for the students of Sanskrit, so Vachanam means the one that can be expressed, and Nirvachanam means Nishchaya Vachanam. Absolutely, certainly it can be described. But this something in between is Anirvachaniyam. You cannot specifically define it. And so we know, for example, the waves of an ocean. The waves of an ocean, or the ornaments of gold or any other silver ornaments. We always talk about gold ornaments, but why not silver ornaments? Okay, let's take up silver ornaments. So the silver is the Satyam in that example, always there, but the ornament is not really there all the time. And in fact, even when it is there, it is not separate from the silver, because the look of silver, it's interesting, silver and gold are very different. This is amazing how the creation is made. So the silver came to my mind because recently someone had given us a gift at a wedding, and it was a silver platter. So this was done about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And so the other day my wife and I were saying, I wonder what happened to that platter that somebody gave. And so what happened was that when we got the plate, not a platter but a plate, very beautiful silver plate, we stored it somewhere. And this is what happens, you've got so much stuff going on and you forget where it is. And we never used it. So the other day we came out, it was so tarnished. The silver didn't look like silver. And I had to get a silver polish, and I did some, and it was really fun to do. It was fun to really look at. At first nothing was happening, but I kept doing it. It took me like half hour or so, both sides of it. Beautiful silver. But this doesn't happen to gold. This is why the gold is considered to be the gold standard, so to speak, in all examples. So in the case of gold ornaments, the ornamentation is mithya. Because you cannot say that the ornament is not there. But you cannot say it is there, because if it was there as a sat, you can always separate the ornament from the gold. But you cannot. The weight of the ornament is the weight of gold. The look of the ornament is the look of gold. The touch of the ornament is the touch. Everything is borrowed. But it is not its own. So this is what is called mithya, borrowed. The whole creation is full of mithya, which is connected to the sat, but it is not sat by itself. This is what is being pointed out. Na asataha vidyate bhavaha. That if it was not connected to the sat in some way, it would not be there. And then the second part is, na abhavaha vidyate sataha. But if it is sat, it will never go away. So, in fact, this is the definition of sat. As we saw a little while ago, that the definition of the sat is, at any time, at any place, under any circumstance, it is there. And so the only doubt is there a vastu like that? Because I don't find any vastu in the world. That's exactly what we saw in Nididhyasanam. That is Paramatma. It is not, it is there, but I don't recognize it. It is there in the form of consciousness, as we will see in more detail. It's always there, always there. And so you cannot, why? Because, why can't you say abhavaha of sataha? Na abhavaha vidyate sataha. That of the sat, abhava can never not, how it can never be? How can you say that? Because the very definition of sat is that it is its own swarupa. You cannot separate the bhava from the sat. You see, the sat is the own swarupa, the bhava must be there. It just has to be discovered. Anyway, so I'll go into that a bit more technical explanation of that, but this is the meaning of the two aspects of the first verse, first part of the verse rather. Na asataha vidyate bhavaha, na abhavaha vidyate sataha, ubhayo api drishtantaha tvan anayos tattva darshibhi. So he says Tattvadarshi. Darshan, Tattvadarshi means the one who knows the trick, the truth behind this is the real person. He has found the rahasyam, found the secret of the truth, this fact. And so following this fact about the Sat, Asat and Mithya, following the fact about this, one who is able to see this very clearly is able to see one's own self in a manner which frees oneself from all the problems. Tattvadarshibihi. So this is not like just some flaky person that happens to see it and so on. He becomes Ishvara himself. So, Brahmavid Brahma eva bhavati. That once you sees Brahma, it becomes Brahma. Unless you are Brahman and you see that you are Brahman, you cannot see Brahman. So that's the Darshibihi. Anyway, that is a separate topic. So now, let us go into Swami Shankarananda's commentary on this verse. So that was just a kind of like a brief explanation of the meaning of the words of the verse number 16. But now we will go into the detailed explanation. Okay. All right. So what I was planning to do, I went through this. This is a very, in some way, as you can see, kind of a difficult verse. Not easily, because it has the very concentrated foundation of the entire Vedanta all in one verse. And so it is unrealistic for us to say, okay, I get everything. It's not easy to do that. So we should forgive ourselves for not really grasping all aspects of this. It becomes more gradual. So based on that, and in studying the Shankarananda ji's commentary, which is quite voluminous, one of the most voluminous commentaries on any verse. There may be a few others, but it's at the high level of voluminity. So what I was going to do was, and I did quite a bit of time to spend on how best to present it to you, I'm going to give you portions of this. And I'm going to leave out certain portions that are outside the scope of our relationship. For that, we would have to probably sit together continuously for several days just studying the nuances of it. And we don't have that time, and I don't think they're going to miss. And that is really meant for a more detailed explanation of that. So I think I will leave out certain portions, but I will still give you the essence of what the Vidya is. So anyway, that's what I'm planning to do. So you will see this even today. We will where we don't follow everything. Okay. Just 1 second. Let me see my. All right. So here is the connection. So the connection between verses is important. Really important. This is what a good commentator does. Okay. So here it says that in the previous two verses, number 14 and 15, that we have already commented on, it was pointed out that, hey Arjuna, what I would recommend to you is that you focus on your reality viewed from a long term and not focus on things that are temporarily attracting you. Right? So, this is what was said. Okay? And so, if you are only absorbed in the day-to-day experiences, you will, so to speak, interrupt your journey unnecessarily. And the reason we say that your focus, so the word anusandhanam was used, if you remember that in the previous verses, that the anusandhanam means the following. What are you following? What are you concentrating on? That anusandhanam was to be directed towards the long term, not to the short term. Why? Because you cannot make a statement without proving it. That's never done. This is why the whole Gita is that you make a statement, then you justify it, you give the logic for it. The reason for it is that the temporary things are mithya, and the long-term permanent thing is satyam. So now that you understand it, same example of the gold ornaments and so on. If you want to enjoy the ornaments, enjoy the ornaments. But don't get pushed out of shape if it is broken, because nothing has happened to the gold. You can redo it if you want to. So consider the enormous difference between satyam and mithya. And you cannot do this analysis and understanding until you focus on the satyam, not the mithya. This is the connection between the previous verses and this verse. Now I will, as I normally do, I will now read the Sanskrit sentences that basically prove this point. Not prove, but they reflect this point. So let's look at this. This is on page 52 of this verse of this book. So he says, Nanu, he says, wait, here's what the connection is. Nanu, this is the first paragraph after verse number 15 is over. Because remember we finished the last class of verse 15 by focusing on the word he. If you recall, he shabda was used. But here, following that is, Nanu sarvatra vidyamananam shabdadinam anusambhim sutaram tyaktva. See, sarvatra vidyamananam shabdadinam anusandhim sutaram tyaktva means that sutara means totally. So, tyaktva means having given up. The anusandhim or anusandhanam, the same thing, that looking at the focusing on shabdadinam vidyamananam. Shabdadinam means words, sights, tastes. So this is a upalakshana for all the 5 of them. So giving up the focus on them, sarvatra vidyamananam shabdadinam anusandhim sutaram tyaktva sada brahma eva anusandhanam na shakyate. He says that without looking at things, I cannot focus on Brahman. Why can't I focus on the Brahman? Because it is not an object that I am only capable of understanding objects. I am only dealing with things, experiences in my life. So if I give that up, how am I going to see Brahman? What's the process? I don't understand that. Then will be nothing left. That's what it's saying. Sarvatra vidyamananam shabdadinam anusandhim sutaram tyaktva sada brahma eva tu sandhanam na shakyate. Iti ashankyanam Brahma, that this being the doubt, this is the nanu. Nanu means always some kind of a objection or a doubt. This being the doubt, then what? Brahma atiriktasya vastunaha abhavat brahmanaha eva purnatvat nirantaratvacha mukshoho sada tadeva anusandhatavyam iti suchayitum brahmana eva sattam tad anyasya tu asattam cha pratipadayati na asataha. So he says, listen, do not have that doubt. We want to make sure that you don't get caught up in this false doubt that if I don't dwell on my experiences, I cannot see Brahman. Because why shouldn't I have that doubt? Because, now let's look at the logic for that. So he says, iti ashankyanam brahma atiriktasya vastunaha abhavat. So he says, no, because there is nothing in the whole creation which is different from Brahma. So I'll come back to it in a minute. Brahma atiriktasya vastunaha abhavat. Because of the impossibility of any vastu being different from Brahma, Brahmanaha eva purnatvat, that it is the totality of everything. Purnam means completely, asheshatvam. You cannot say most of it is Brahman, but there are some that are not Brahman. No. Anything that you can postulate, see, experience, anything is nothing but Brahma alone. This has to be a seen. Which Brahma? Okay, well, that we will see later, but I'm just telling you that there is nothing separate from Brahman. So, Brahma atiriktasya vastunaha abhavat brahmanaha eva purnatvat. The Purna is nothing but Brahman alone. So when we say Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate, Brahman alone. Purna and Brahma is completeness and Brahman are one and the same. So you cannot say that Akasha is dependent on all these room Akashas. No. It is Purnaha. Everything is nothing but Akasha alone. So then he says, Nirantatvacha. Nirantatva means that it does not have, there's no end to it. You cannot find up to here it is Brahman, after that it is some other kind of a thing. No. Whatever you think about, visualize, experience is Brahman alone. Therefore, so Brahmana eva purnatvat nirantatvat cha. And so Purnam and Nirantatvam both are there. Therefore, mumukshoho sadeva anusandhatavyam. Therefore, people that want freedom in their life, the freedom from all problems and any conditions and so on, Sada tadeva anusandhatavyam. Therefore, they should always focus on that Brahman. This is to be pointed out. Suchaitum. So this is called Tumun Pratyaya. Tumun Pratyaya means one which has to be done, which should be done. So anusandhatavyam iti suchayitum, in order to convey, suchayitum here means, the right translation for suchayitum means, like in Hindi they say suchna. In India they would say, for those of you that know a little bit of Hindi, they'll say, आज भारत सरकार ये आपको सूचना दे रही है. We are informing you, we are conveying it to you. Kind of like a proclamation. So he says, Suchaitum. In order to convey this, Brahmanaha eva sattam. So you talk about asataha vidyate bhavaha, abhavaha vidyate sataha. So he says, Brahman alone is the Sat. Brahmanaha eva sattam. Then tad anyasya tu asattam. And everything else is not the true nature of Sat. That's all borrowed. The electricity is the only place where electricity is there. Everything else is borrowed. So, tu asattam cha pratipadayati na sato iti bhava. This is the connection. This is the connection. So I went a little slowly, but hopefully it's very clear. All we have covered is a very small portion of what is yet to come on the number 16. And I hope that you are okay with it as we go. Alright, so that being done, now let's go to the main verse. So far it was a connection, and now we will see the So he says, then there is I'm going to quickly go through this. I'm not going to spend much time on this. So then after giving the connection to the 16, he explains the verse number 16 a little bit. So we've already done that. So I won't spend much time on it, but we will go into question answers very shortly, but let me read it for you. So he says, this is in Sanskritam, Saditi astita matram vastu sarvagatam sukshmam ekam ekarasam nityam niravayavam niranjanam vijnanam tad avagamyate sarva vedantebhyaha. So he says all the Vedantas talk about the fact this is nothing, this is not just one or two places. The whole Vedanta is really just telling you this fact. What fact? Vastu, this Vastu, Brahman, Sarvagatam. No matter what your life is, what your time is, whether it was forefathers, all your progeny later to come, Sarvagatam. It is nothing but Brahman, 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 Brahman alone. What anybody experiences in anybody's life, Sarvagatam. Sukshmam, but not understood easily. Very subtle. Not absent, but subtle. And the subtlety of that is because it is not an object. It is something there which is behind all objects, as we will see. Sukshmam, ekam. Single is the single one. Kaivalyam. Kevalasya bhavaha kaivalyam. Ekarasam. Ekarasam means that it is not connected to multiplicity. It is connected to multiplicity, but it's not made up of. That's a better way to explain it. It's not made up of many things. Like a house is made up of so many different things. It's not like that. Ekarasam, like akasha, like the space. Nityam. By nature it is always there. Niravayavam. It doesn't have any parts. Niranjanam. It cannot be sullied. It cannot be dirtied. Space cannot, you cannot. Atma is even one level beyond Akasha. But even the Akasha cannot be Niranjana. It cannot be Anjanam. It's Niranjanam. It is not, you cannot pollute space. You can pollute air. It looks like it's polluted, but it's not. It's something which is superimposed on top of that. So, Niravayavam, Niranjanam, Vijnanam. Vijnanam means Visheshena Jnanam. One which is clearly seen once it is seen. Then you cannot forget it, cannot doubt it. Vijnanam. Tad yat avagamyate sarva vedantebhyaha. Sarva vedantebhyaha means sarve upanishadbhyaha. By all the Upanishad, in all the Vedas, one which is seen. Etad vilakshanam. Different from this, asat shabdadi lakshanam. Asat shabdadi lakshanam. So asat means that one whose nature is different from the sat. What is different from the sat? Because let's say a person or a thing is different from a sat because now it is not always there. It is only a function of deshakala and vastu. So he said, etad vilakshanam asat shabdadi lakshanam jagat tasya etasya bhavaha sattana vidyate nasti. So he says that asat vastu therefore you are never able to see its permanence because it is not permanent. How can you see the permanence? If it by nature it is not permanent, so you cannot see it. Anyway, I'm just going to quickly go through this. Sati swarupena vastuni satta sampadhyeta tad abhavat satta abhava asadatmanah jagatehe sattve pramana abhavat. Now comes this is the first topic, an important topic, subtopic. So he said, there is no proof. So the next explanation that we will see, and hopefully I'll be able to get to quite a bit of it, is all based on this one sentence. Okay, so pay attention to this. This is on the fourth line of this paragraph, number 2. Asadatmanah jagatah sattve pramana abhavat. He says that for the world that you experience, the fact that it is the truth, there is no proof for it. This is the statement made. This is an important statement, kind of like you put your flag on this statement and now you focus on it. What is the statement? There is no proof of the fact that this world is the truth. There's no proof. So now it's kind of like, you say something which is not generally acceptable, because our thinking is everything is I'm seeing it, so it must be true. So if somebody comes in and he says, let me tell you something, what you are seeing is not the truth. So that riles me up. He says, how can you say that? This is what it is now. So this person comes in and says, asadatmanah jagatah sattve pramana abhavat. There is no proof to it. Then nanu asti eva. Nanu asti eva. Pratyakshadi pramanam iti chet. He says, you cannot say that because I see it. I see it. So this person who had made the statement is ready for that. He says, I was expecting that you will be objecting to it. Now let me examine where your doubt is. So he says, so this is where really the beauty of all the technical analysis now comes in. So he says, I'll just read the Sanskrit first and then I'll go into this. Okay, so I'm normally I go through the explanation first, then go to the Sanskrit, but for some reason I'll reverse it. So let me just at least reverse it and then I will explain all the reasoning. He says, Nanu asti eva pratyakshadi pramanam. Pratyakshadi means that it is right in front of me. What are you talking about? It is the truth. Isn't that the proof that you are saying there is no proof? That is the proof. Iti chet. He says, what if I say that? He says, Tvam atra prashtavyaha. Sat sattve pramanam kim pratyaksham. He says, I will now ask you, how can what you see becomes the proof? How can you say? Tat Satve Pramanam Kim Pratyaksham. No, actually this is something interesting. So I'll change the tone a little bit. He says, Tvam atra prastavyaha. He says, now I'm going to lead you into the logic. Prastavyaha means one which should be asked. It needs to be asked. This logic has to be followed. Tvam atra prastavyaha. Here in this manner, this needs to be asked of you. Tat satve pramanam kim pratyaksham? He says, are you talking that the proof is the fact that you see it? Anumanam va. Or are you inferring it? Are you doing inference on it? Kim upamanam va. Or you are comparing it uta shabdo va. Or it is pointed out by some wise person. Because as you know from our experience, that you can actually see somebody but not know who that person is. You can have some ordinary person, and we have taken the example of the vice president of some European country who came in as a friend of your guest, and you didn't know that, you were not paying any attention to him. As soon as you found out, my God, he's the vice president of Belgium, I think is a word country that I have chosen. I don't know why, but then you say, oh my goodness. So you tell everybody, no, make sure that you give him hors d'oeuvres first, and you give what kind of drink would you have, and so on. All because of the words. So this is called Shabda Pramanam. So he says, I ask you, which of the four are you saying is the proof of Satyam, of your Sat? You're experiencing something that is very obvious, but the question is, what is the truth behind it, and why are you taking it to be the truth? Are you doing it because of Pratyaksham, then Anumanam, Upamanam, or Shabda? These are the four. I've already divided that into 4-1. As you know, there's another one which is Arthapatti. So that's not taken up because it is a kind of a form of Anumanam. So these are the 4 that we have. Okay. So he says, which of these are there? Then I will just do the analysis of the first one. And then I will close the class, because then the others will have to be done later on. So now let's look at it. He says, Na adyaha. Sanskritam. So first of all, he says he does the 4. Pratyaksham, Anumanam, Upamanam, Shabda. Got it? Which of this is your reason for it? If you say Pratyaksha, because it is visible to me, na adyaha. He says, no, that is not a pramanam. Why is it not a pramanam? This is very important to see. It means idam rajatam pradesha matras chandraha ityadau vyabhichara darshanat. Here is the logic. A beautiful, important logic. And we'll just end the class with that. He says, it looks like it is the truth, but it is not. Why? How can you say that? Give me some examples. So he says, when you are walking on the Chowpatty beach in Bombay, and you suddenly saw some kind of a mother of pearl, or the modern example which has been given by a lot of the acharyas is, especially in country like India where smoking is much more prevalent, you have a silver backing of a is a cigarette, a cigarette, what is it? Not a box, but a cigarette packet. So what happens is that cigarette packet has about maybe 10 cigarettes, 5 and 5. And then it has a silver inside of that. And then after the person just keeps on smoking, and you just, last cigarette is there, then you throw away the package. Because you cannot find any place where you can throw it, so you just put it on the ground. So as the person is going around, you suddenly see silver, and you feel maybe somebody has dropped a silver coin. So it is called Rajata. Rajata means a silver. So you quickly pick it up and you find, oh, this is just a silver packet. Has nothing, no value whatsoever. Or the example was that of the mother of pearl that also shines like silver. So he says that what you see is not always what you get. Because vyabhichara means that it may or may not be there. So you cannot rely on pratyaksha as the pramanam. And you will not. And once you understand the whole truth, you will see this looks like the real stuff, but it is not the real stuff. So pratyaksha cannot be, and he has given another interesting example. Pradesha matras chandraha. Pradesha matras chandraha means that the moon is a huge thing, but it looks very small. So are you going to rely on your pratyaksha of the Chandra? You ask a 2-year-old, 3-year-old child, hey, you see this moon? He says, yes. How big is the moon? Tell me. He says, I see this very clearly. Your eyes are open? He says, my eyes are open. Okay, how big is it? Well, the moon is about this much. Is that the truth about the moon? The moon is huge compared to what you're talking about it. So you cannot rely on the pratyaksha as a pramanam. So forget about that one. Let's go to the next one, which is anumanam. This we will start in the next class. Okay, so with that, I will close today's class. And we'll continue with verse number 16 next time. Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Right? Yes, you're right, Shanti Kumar. You know better than I do. You're not even from this area. Sankatamochana Hanuman Temple near Gilroy. Yes, that's the one I was referring to. Yeah. Haridas Baba, yes. Arvind, yes, that's exactly right. So Akshay, your question, does Maunam represent the indirect way of explaining what the reality is? No, not really, not in that sense, but it will come. So withhold your question until we have finished the examination of Maunam. Okay, so I'll probably not respond directly to your question at this point. Okay, I don't know this person, Vijay Bharati. He asks, may someone let us know which chapter and verse is being taught? And so that is, I think I mentioned it to you, but maybe I didn't. I don't expect you're a new person. Let me know, by the way, something about yourself, any new person, please send me an email at vijaykapoor@gmail.com. So VIJAYKAPOOR@gmail.com. So Vijay, if you can please write to me, I'd appreciate it. But yeah, it's chapter 2, verse number 16. And I think Keshav has already said that. So Satish, we had already talked about the fact that we had ordered 20 books from India, and 10 of them came, and those have already been distributed. 10 more got lost in the process, and we are still trying to figure out where they get lost. So there is some tracing going on, and then more books in India are not available at this point. So, but in the meantime, we had, Satish, we had sent out some PDF of a book available in the marketplace, and I think if you look at the previous previous classes, you will see a reference to that PDF. If you have difficulty finding it, please let us know again. So you are able to see the PDF version, but as far as the physical book is concerned, we are still having problems in finding any more books available. That's where we're at. Okay, so with that, I take your leave and I look forward to seeing you next week.